Can we just end on some Jim Jordan on Ingram telling us how he just made mincemeat out of Dr. Fauci?
If medicine's pinup boy, Dr.
Medicine's pinup boy.
Anthony Fauci thought today's House hearing would be
You mean the guy with an actual degree?
another fawn fest. Boy, was he in for a rude awakening. Today, St. Anthony had to contend with real yet fairly straightforward questions from Congressman Jim
Yet fairly straightforward? Fairly straightforward?
Jordan.
All right.
When do Americans get their freedom back?
When we get the level of infection in this country low enough that it is not a really high threat.
What is low enough? Give me a number.
To get the level of infection in this country low that it is no longer a threat. That is when.
You don't think Americans' liberties have been threatened the last year, Dr. Fauci?
I don't look at this as a liberty thing, Congressman Jordan.
Well, tell me the number. Tell me the number.
When 90% of the members of Congress get vaccinated.
But I don't want you to answer my question. The American people want Dr. Fauci to answer the
Well-
question.
But
What does it
time
have to be?
expires, sir. If you need to respect the chair and shut your mouth.
Tell him, Maxine.
Joining
Yeah, and by the way, it is not, can I just say this? It is not a question of liberty. None of the changes presented under COVID have anything to do with ongoing changes in the way people live in America. As a matter of fact, the more fully people participate in these things, the less time we have to spend doing them. That was the lesson of last year. The lockdowns and people wearing masks and using hand sanitizer and doing social distancing, when people do that the most, that's when we don't have surges. And when we don't have surges, that gives us the ability to get a grasp on this thing. And the sooner we get a grasp on this thing and we can get to herd immunity where there's been enough people vaccinated mixed with enough people who've already had it, then we can get back to relative normal and then back to normal as it fades, as we're able to contain it and track and trace and all that kind of stuff and keep track of, all the variants and those elements of it. But it's not about your essential liberties. That's like saying, when can I go swimming? It's it's winter, and you're like, when can I go outside in my bathing suit? When and you're like, when winter ends.
Joining me now is the man you just saw, Congressman Jim Jordan from Ohio. Also with me, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, professor of...
Well, here's the thing, Laura. I don't know if it is Jim Jordan because he was wearing a mask, and the person wearing a mask clearly is someone without liberties, and this is a man who represents liberty in a salmon tie.
Medicine at Stanford. Congressman, let's start with you. Fairly straightforward question, which one we've been asking since last April. Give us the objective metrics. When can kids go back to school? We know that's not dangerous. When can we get our freedom back? And always moving the goalposts. But his guardians rushed in to defend him, didn't they?
Yeah, but I mean, in what world does an unelected bureaucrat get to tell American citizens when we can exercise our God-given liberties, when we can exercise our constitutional rights, our First Amendment rights? I mean, for a year now...
What are you talking about? Cops are unelected. But if a cop says you can't go down the street, we're cleaning something out. When's this going to stop? Well, we're processing a murder. Somebody was shot in the street. When's it going to be done? I got to go to work. Drive around. It's my freedom to go wherever I want to. This is a free country. My taxes pay for this street. You weren't elected. I'm a police officer. I have certain authorities for public safety and to help prevent and convict criminals. Prevent crime and convict criminals. What is he talking about?
Here now, Americans have been told you can't go to church, can't go to work, can't go to school.
You can go to work. Churches have been meeting. A lot of states have different levels of it, but a lot of times it's not that you can't because the government says so. You can't because people will die.
School, can't go to a loved one's funeral, can't assemble, can't petition. For a year now, citizens haven't been able to come to...
Yeah, we've been in a pandemic because reality, dumbass. Does Jim Jordan just send his kids out in a lightning storm if they just want to ride their bicycle?
To their capital.
What about their freedom to ride their bicycle in a lightning storm? Huh? This lightning storm has been going on for 7 hours.
To lobby their representative, to petition them to redress their grievances. They can't do that. And if you dare speak out against...
Yes, they can. They can do it virtually.
Dr. Fauci, you get censored. You get attacked. Even Dr. Bhattacharya knows that.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Jim Jordan's never had his account shut down. Jim Jordan's never had his, has not been able to, has been censored by the state for what he has to say. He gets every second of time that he's supposed to get in Congress. Every second. He's not getting censored or shut down.
He's been attacked, and he's a physician, a medical school professor from Stanford, for goodness sake. Even that's not good enough for the radical left. So that's what's driving me crazy. And we just like to know. And Laura, you're right. You were one.
Sorry. The party of that's against the elites says what about Stanford, Doctor?
The very first to point this.
Oh my God, Gutfeld's coming up. Can't wait.
Out a year ago on your show. I mean,
why is there an exclamation point at the end of Gutfeld? It sounds like you're swearing, like Gutfeld.
American people are tired of this, and just tell us when it's going to end, when we get our rights back.
Well, I guess the American...
You have your rights. Everyone has their rights. But in an emergency, we all participate in what's safest endeavor. What are you talking about? If there was a bioweapon attack, which is a lot of what was alleged by Giuliani and the like, why would you want to go outside? It's my freedom to go out into a zombie attack. Yeah, but
American people have to remember that the government can't take certain rights away. Those are inalienable rights.
Yeah, but you can limit them. You can't go on a military base, dumbass. You have to have a permit to have a protest. If Nazis want to march, and I know this upsets you, Laura, if they want to march, they need a permit. They're alienable in some cases. But please tell us about how freedom of speech gives you the right to have child porn and snuff films.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah. Why are you pursuing happiness in a way that would endanger and kill other people, and that's okay? You're infringing on other people's rights. Your rights end at you infringing on other people's rights.
Not by our creator. You're exactly right.
And so he doesn't have the right, and frankly, the government doesn't have the right to take a lot of these basic freedoms away. Doctor,
the hell they don't. We have a society we're operating here. You don't get to drive on the other side of the fucking street just because you immigrated from England.
Dr. Bhattacharya, I want to go to you on this because we keep hearing about the number of cases in the community. But you see how he got very nervous when he was asked for a specific number. Doctor, why is that?
Because every time they get to that number, red state governors open the door and shit the bed. And then we have a huge surge. Because we get to this number, it's like, okay, we hit that number, everybody out again, not understanding that we might have hit this nationwide, but it may be spiking in the rural areas, which is exactly what's happening, and the blue states have it under control, and then over time it capsizes and we're back to where we were.
I mean, there's no number other than 0 that would satisfy him, I think. I mean,
Nope. They've said 2%. 2 or 3% is the rolling number as far as infections per 100,000.
That's the problem. Cases are not the problem. Cases in the vulnerable population is the problem. And once we've vaccinated the vulnerable population, the older population,
a third of people who have COVID that aren't part of the quote unquote vulnerable population have mental and neurological issues after the fact. This asshole doesn't even know the full effects of having COVID. Or if it's just, it's like you have the flu, and if it passes, you pass it, you're kind of done. Apparently not.
We're done with the epidemic. You asked about schools. We should open schools tomorrow. There's no excuse not to have them open immediately.
Yes, there is. There's an absolute reason, which is adults run the place. Adults interact. There are people who bring the food. There are people who clean the place. All those people interact. And if there's not either vaccines or mitigatory PPE available for everybody equally, you can't open in certain areas. Most of the schools in the country are already open. This is a bullshit argument.
Thanks,
Diana.
I think we made a lot of progress already, actually. 80% of people 65 and up in the U.S. have had at least the first dose of the vaccine. Dr. Fauci is probably the #1 anti-vaxxer in the country in some sense, because he has modeled behavior that has made people think the vaccine won't give you back your life. But it will. It's an incredible...
No, he hasn't. He's saying they don't know if there's a percentage where you could possibly carry it. And until we reach a point where most of the people you're running into have been vaccinated, especially when you come down to the Congress where half the Republicans in there were refusing to get the goddamn vaccine, you could actually carry it even though you can't get it and give it to them and kill someone. And you might be cool with that. And Jim Jordan certainly is cool with that. And God knows Laura Ingraham goes, wait a minute, black people and Hispanic people die at a higher rate? Awesome.
Incredibly effective vaccine.
The rest of us aren't comfortable with it.
He was wearing a mask. He's been vaccinated. I don't really understand what he's trying to do here. And I completely agree with Representative Jordan that the Dr. Fauci seems utterly blind to the collateral damage from the lockdown, including our liberty, but also
our liberty. What do you mean, including our liberty? Seriously, is your awakeness in life affected by the fact that you slept? Is your ability to go water skiing ruined by the fact that you lived through a fall and winter and it was too cold to water ski? What the fuck are they talking about our liberty? Is everybody how damaged is everybody supposed to be that somehow our liberty is destroyed because we went through this thing, which was a very real thing, and we dealt with this thing, and we're on our way out of it, and we're treating that movement out and the variables that we can't control. Oh my God, Nat, thank you so much. It's good to see you. Oh, big hug, and thanks for sending your love to everybody else too. At what point, for fuck's sake, is your liberty damaged by this circumstance? We've all gone through it together, and the idea is to get past it and not do it anymore. There's no bill passing through that everybody has to wear masks from now on in the United States because of contagious disease in general. Do people think that they're outlawing church and 1 year of not going to church regularly, 52 weeks, would end the faith of millions of people in the United States and not make it stronger? What kind of pathetic straw house of worship do they think exists in this country that just trying to protect your older parishioners and those amongst them that may have illnesses or autoimmune diseases or diseases they don't even fucking know about from dying by gathering in the middle of COVID? And like Hank Kunneman, one of these prophet dickheads that we follow sometimes, he even admitted they've had some COVID illnesses and deaths in their church, but they're like, well, it's the price of doing business. He doesn't give a shit. How is that an attack on religion? The attack on religion is, hey, groups gathering are vectors for a lot of people dying. And one of the ways that people would lose their faith, it would seem, is if they got together in the middle of this thing thinking God would save them, and then they end up dying, and then they lose their faith about that because it spread through their congregation and killed a bunch of fucking people. One would think that would be more damaging to religion overall.
Our health, other health needs.
Now, Congressman Jordan, later in the hearing, I think a lot.
By the way, our other health needs, meaning mental health stuff, because we're all alone and we're not interacting the way we did, and we don't have the same physical interaction with people, and kids and suicides are supposedly up, which by comparison they actually aren't. But that's another conversation for another time. But these guys. If I suggested last year, if that's really the concern, then why aren't school teachers and home health services and child protective services bonding together and sending people to kids' houses with PPE on, to take their temperatures, check in on them, make sure they have enough food. If they can't be in the schools themselves, send the school to them on a rotation. So you'd keep the teachers employed, and they would go to these places, but they would have gloves and PPE and hand sanitizer provided by the state. But do you think Jim Jordan or for that matter Laura Ingraham are for giving those materials to child protective services, home health services, and teachers to make that happen? Of course not.
I think a lot of folks miss this. You continued to press Dr. Fauci on when we could fully open the country. Yeah, and whenever he gives a metric, all these assholes in Jim Jordan's state kind of go, all right, we've hit that metric, we can go, without going, oh, no, the nation hit that metric, but your district still sucks.
Give us your best guess then.
I just did.
No, you didn't. You didn't give us a time. When do you think this is good? Are we going to be here 2 years from now wearing masks?
No,
Jim Jordan asked Dr. Fauci the same question.
Well, let me answer. You're ranting again. Let me
No,
just.
I'm not ranting.
Yes, you
Yes, he is.
are.
So that was a personal attack.
Wait, sorry.
I mean,
Well, it's a personal description. Why didn't you show his answer? Why didn't you show the rest of his answer, Laura? Why wouldn't you show this answer from this man?
we have the Rose Parade in 2025, the Super Bowl fully attended in 2026. I mean, Congressman Jordan, he doesn't want to be
That's funny. She belongs on Gutfeld.
specific, ever.
We pay him $400. The taxpayers of this great country, whose liberties have been infringed and assaulted and attacked for the last year, pay this individual.
How have their liberties been assaulted and attacked? Honest to God, I don't get this. Where does the whole liberty attack come from? Because a temporary pause on things during an emergency, you can't go fishing in a hurricane. It's not a violation of your rights. If they tell you, if they have a mandatory evacuation, that's not a violation of your liberty. They're trying to save your life because you might be too stupid to do this. And if you violate the mandatory evacuation, if you get killed, you can't sue the state later.
Individual, $417,000 a year, the highest paid bureaucrat in the entire federal government. Why can't he give us an answer? Just
because it's a movable situation. It's malleable. It's based on us actually hitting certain points and staying there.
give us an answer. Dr. Bhattacharya is right. Let's get back to allowing this country to flourish like it was before this virus hit the country. It is.
Oh, you want us back to a recession? I see.
It is so obvious that we need to get back to normal, get back to respecting the Constitution. Every
Dimander, thank you so much. Show me on the blow-up doll where your liberties were affected.
single right under the First Amendment has been attacked over the last year. And there are all kinds of other costs, as the doctor pointed out. There are social costs, there are health costs, there are certainly economic costs.
None of which you have actively chosen to try and fix or mitigate or work on during this time. You have simply just screamed to get back to what is normal, allow people to die, and ignore those problems and hope they go away by some magic fix that's not based on any science at all.
There are all kinds of costs.
But they've never cared.
I know this virus is serious, but let's get back to normal.
Do you know this is serious? Do you? Because it seems like you're treating the virus like you treated sexual assault at OSU.
But Dr. Bhattacharya, given your professional opinion, with all of the facts that we know, and frankly, we've known for almost a year about this virus.
Have we? Almost a year? We've known, what have we known? Have we known about the vaccines and their efficacy? Did we know about Johnson & Johnson or AstraZeneca's possible blood clots this time last year? Huh?
It can be deadly in certain circumstances.
Yeah, in certain circumstances. We don't know what those circumstances are, and some people are hit by those circumstances and like, hey, you're not even 50. You don't even have diabetes. You're not overweight. What the hell?
Especially with people with high BMI, obesity, so forth. But given what we know, are these controls...
Statistically, aren't there some Americans we can do without?
On personal freedoms, do they seem to be tailored to a concern about a virus or something different?
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely, it's clearly an attack on the flag and apple pie and not Major League Baseball. That's a right-wing thing now.
I mean, I don't want to second guess, but I will say that they haven't been particularly effective at stopping the virus.
I'm sorry, who? They? Who's they? They? Who was in charge last year? Who had the Senate? Who had the presidency? They?
Florida is relatively...
May I? I know, point of order, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Trump. They haven't what? They haven't what? Sorry, they haven't been particularly effective? Yeah? Yeah, they haven't been particularly effective, Doctor? Wonder what might have limited the effectiveness of what Fauci was saying. Can you think of anything that might have limited the impact of the plans, the warnings, the systems that Fauci would have put in place with the CDC and the NIH? Can you think of anything that might have limited the positive outcome from those ideas? Anything in the last year, up until, say, January 20th, that might have hamstrung the entire concept behind, mitigation in terms of the virus? I listened to him, but I didn't do what he said, Trump said in a new podcast interview. Trump and Fauci often disagreed over the administration's response to the outbreak. I'm sorry, who didn't do? This was on that Truth with Lisa Booth. We listened to that one. Remember that? I thought rather than firing him, I listened to him, but I didn't do what he said because, frankly, his record is not a good record. Trump said, I didn't really elevate him. He's been there 40 years. He's been there forever. And by the way, so has America getting a grasp on AIDS, which was one of his primary focuses. Can you, honestly, can you believe this asshole? Listen to this shit again. Hold on.
That they haven't been particularly effective at stopping the virus. And Florida is relatively old, haven't been particularly effective at stopping the virus. I don't want to second guess, but I will say that they haven't been particularly effective at stopping the virus. And Florida is relatively open. California's locked down, and the age-adjusted death rate is actually worse in California.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Florida is what? I'm sorry, and I'm obviously going to choose a big left-wing organization like the Orlando Weekly. I'm sorry, they're what? Florida's doing relatively well? Are they now? Florida's doing great compared to California? Sorry, what was that again? I'm sorry, did Gavin Newsom order the raiding of a woman's home because she was reporting honest COVID death numbers? Let's see. Public health official home raided Florida COVID. Yeah, I'm sorry. Tell me again what, I'm sorry, how did Florida do? What happened in Florida that was amazing? How good are the death rate numbers in Florida? Oh, hey, Florida police raid house of fired data scientists who allege state manipulated COVID-19 stats. You don't say. Where would she get that idea? Um, 4,924 unreported deaths. Probably won't surprise anybody who's lived through the state's lackadaisical response to the ongoing global pandemic, but it bears stating plainly Florida is undercounting Florida COVID-19 deaths. That's the American Journal of Public Health has come to that. Analysis of excess deaths during COVID-19 pandemic in the state of Florida. Results. Our results suggest that Florida experienced 19,241 excess deaths above historical trends from March to September 2020, including 14,317 COVID-19 deaths and an additional 4,924 all-cause excluding COVID-19 deaths in that period. Conclusions. Total deaths are significantly higher than historical trends In Florida, even when accounting for COVID-19 related deaths, the impact of COVID-19 on mortality is significantly greater than the official COVID-19 data suggest. Sorry, how fucking awesome is Florida, you dipshit?
California, we paid this enormous cost in terms of these lockdowns in so many ways.
Yeah, we paid so, I mean, unbelievable. Let's see. California. Let's see. Where's the good explanation? Yeah, there were so many painful things that happened in California. The higher than expected tax revenue reveals state's stark economic divide and pandemic job losses. Look at that. By the way, the PPE also went to those jobs specifically. Very weird situation. $26 billion extra. That's weird. Terrible things that happened especially compared to Florida.
And yet we've gotten very little for it. We have to learn.
Oh yeah? Well, we've gotten fewer deaths in California than you think, and more deaths in Florida than you think.
To live with this epidemic, with this virus. It's not like it's going to go away. And in fact, in many ways we have with the vaccine. Dr. Fauci should be touting the good news about this and telling the truth, which is that we are very, very close to being able to say, we're done with the epidemic.
We're very, very close to being able to say, right, are we there yet, though? Are we 100% sure that you can't communicate it? Is he the voice of caution? Is he going to be the most extreme version of that? Of course he is.
We just need to get the vaccines in the arms of the vulnerable, and then encourage that.
Well, they want a new normal. The old normal they never liked.
Yeah, they didn't like the old normal. You mean Trump?
Gives them their chance to have a new normal. I'm convinced. I've been convinced for a long time that that's really.
What version of new normal? You mean black and brown people and Asians being treated equally with everyone else? Yeah, I can understand why that would be frightening.
What much of this is about. Gentlemen, thank you.
And again, how? Really? How? How is getting everybody vaccinated and practicing social distancing during the pandemic about creating an entirely new structure for America? I'm honest to God. Like, I understand that there are certain industries they don't think should get extra money, like solar stuff, and they've got this weird thing against green energy, and they link it to the Green New Deal, and they link the Green New Deal to AOC, and they link AOC to Bernie, and they link Bernie to Jewish communism. I get that arc. I get where they're going from, in terms of their own fixation. What I don't get is how protecting yourself during a limited pandemic, one that is here for a short amount of time, although it's an extraordinary moment, it's obviously all over the world, and though we may get it back together, if we suddenly go, all right, America's open, talk about ringing the dinner bell for foreigners to come here that might bring the disease. For all their concern about people crossing the southern border and coming in here and bringing COVID with them and crime, and some of them are rapists, but some of them are very nice people. How is that not telling the rest of the world, like, hey, you might not be able to travel amongst countries in Europe, but you can come here? And so everybody starts bringing the variants and other stuff here when we're not prepared to deal with it, and we haven't had it, well under control. One of the reasons why New Zealand and Australia have been so successful is because they're isolated. And they're a long trip from anywhere for a lot of people. And it's a lot easier for them economically and physically to shut themselves off from travel from the rest of the world. The United States isn't. If only for Mexico and Canada bringing those folks in. And people that go into Canada or go into Mexico and then come here. This is so weird. I'm still trying to get them to, someone please explain to me how temporary restrictions to deal with an emergency are an attack on liberty. There must be some sort of brain misfire that I'm just incapable of interpreting that part of their argument. Because I haven't heard a single one of them, Jim Jordan included, say that these are permanent. They want everybody wearing masks. They want America to social distance forever, for real. I mean, they've heard them, go, well, how many more years are we going to do this? As a sort of hyperbolic treatment of the whole thing. But I've yet to hear a single one of them describe this in a way that actually makes any goddamn sense. It's so weird.